I have the tendency to hide from you as a self-preservation tactic to not go any deeper here. Because at the end of the day, I'm so afraid of how it will affect me when you leave. Not if, when. So I know what I think is the most comforting and logical belief about death. And when that comes down to the ground level, those beliefs and thoughts do not protect me, nor do I want them to, from the fact that this is all going away. And isn't that such an incredible case for being here? And when we are unaware of the fact that it's all going away, we are hardly here. And we miss it. We miss it.
Hi, we're Jamie and Joan, two humans and bodies who take care of bodies for a living.
We created this podcast as practical medicine for bodies living through this disembodied time.
We want to invite you to come sit with us and experience the beautiful, loving, complex person that is your body.
Hi, Jamie.
Hi, Joan. We're back. We're back again.
We're back. Mm-hmm. We're back for the final time in season 2.
Yeah.
What?
That's crazy. We have completed a second season of a whole project together.
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
And it's like, I love not knowing how many seasons this thing is going to have. That is so fun.
I love not knowing anything.
Also that. Yeah.
Joan, deeply curious.
Yes.
How did you experience your anatomy these past couple of weeks?
Oh my gosh. I mean, in a variety of ways, as always. The one I was thinking about earlier today that even feels more right. And again, it's one of the ones where I'm like, I haven't fully processed all the somatic experiences. So this may be a mini facilitation session.
Oh, I'm game. Let's do it.
Okay. So the background context is I'm an Enneagram 9.
We love you.
I think I said that on here before. Peacekeeper, conflict avoidant, generally accommodating, etc. And so there's been plenty of times in my life where I've wished to say something and instead I've stewed about it. Mm-hmm. And then often what can happen is then when I say it, I feel really panicky. I feel so nervous that I try and over-explain myself, if you will, to make it right or real or validate it. And then say there's pushback, then I'll kind of back down and stew. Like that's a common past pattern.
Yeah.
And in this case, this was a meeting I had, like a Zoom meeting about a potential, I'll say community project of something that I really care about, like in healthcare, in my local community. I really care about it happening. And particularly, I really care about it happening well. Like I wouldn't want to support it trying to become reality if it was going to be done so in a way that would be at cross purposes of its intention. And so
well said.
And I feel strongly about it.
Yeah.
And so I had this feeling strongly about it. So that usually means I'm going to I need to prove myself kind of thing. And then in this conversation, there's people who are, senior to me or have different kinds of power and that were showing up to the meeting kind of defensive of their original position and not showing openness or eagerness to hear necessarily.
Yep.
So it's a perfect storm for me to shut down or over-explain or fawn or whatever. And so it was really cool to just have me, when it was my turn to talk, when it felt natural, they were asking for questions. I'd unmute, we're on Zoom, and I just share what felt important to me.
Yeah.
And then let other people talk. And I had somatically, I felt a little bit of that buzz of ooh, this is something different. But the core of me felt just alive and connected with why I was talking. That truth is relaxing thing. Yeah. And not just truth, but kind of the purpose behind it.
Yep.
I wasn't just saying these are facts I think are true. I was no, this is my whole reason for being here,
Yeah.
is to say what I see because I believe it will make this project better. But I am also not in charge of convincing you it is true. And that's the piece.
That's it. That's great.
This could fall on completely deaf ears, and that would be sad in my opinion for you.
Yeah.
But then I will have done my part. And there was even one point where the kind of defensive person, because I'd been concerned about the pace at which they were going to try and rush a timeline.
Okay.
And the other person's like, well, we've done this a lot of times and I think we can do it. And, when it kind of came around to my time again, I was like, I just want to name for sure everyone here, we can like throw a show together. We're in healthcare. We know how to do it. And I still encourage us to find a sustainable way for this to begin and begin well, because that's how then it's going to keep growing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like, I don't think I convinced that. I don't even know. That person's internet connection was weird. Like, I have no idea if they even heard it. But it was like, for me, again, and for the other people that were in the Zoom room.
Uh-huh.
And it wasn't, I didn't feel any antagonism. I was actually like, hey, I hear you. And maybe if someone is not conflict avoidant, they'll be like, yeah, this is how conversations go. But like, it all felt very revolutionary.
No, it's big. I love a lot of nines. This is big,
Yes.
Joan. This is really big.
I felt
did
like
a
my
great job.
eight wing,
It's
and maybe my
growing.
one wing. They were like growing.
That's why
and
you got
flying
both
me.
those 8s and 1s, man. Just the stickiest, like most sandpapery numbers that exist on the Enneagram are your
And they're
wings.
my
That's
neighbors.
on purpose. Yep. Uh-huh. Mhm.
So
You're welcome.
that was like, that feels like it could be very heady in the
Uh-huh.
way, like, look, I performed these, more assertive, whatever strategies, but like it truly was not coming from a cognitive place. It
Yep.
was coming from a somatic place. I was like,
because the alternative
connected.
isn't an option anymore. Because it's not like you didn't have anything to say before. It's certainly not that you didn't
Yes.
have vision, purpose,
No.
strong feelings, deep convictions. You always had those. It's just the practiced motion was just shove them down. Shove 'em down.
disconnect.
Disconnect, shove them down, make them small, whatever. And there are even some specific somatics to this. It kind of shows up in the body of each person that has this, kind of fawning strategy differently, which I think is really fascinating. But in one way or another, it's going to be some kind of like disconnection from voice, disconnection from gut.
Yes.
And then what is trying to be accomplished is like disconnection from the potential discomfort of if what I say is not received. And you will
Yes.
succeed at that, but it will be because what you are there to say is not being heard in the first place. So it's fascinating because, as you know, well, as you've experienced in your body, and so have I, you're both like getting a need met while the core thing is going consistently unmet. And when that is going consistently unmet, distress will increase. That will come out sideways. You will get sick. You will develop internal states and dispositions that become chronic because your body's like, I would love for you to open your mouth and be heard. You would feel better. It would not feel great for a little while, but in the long term, like you'd feel better. And so that's a tough process. Like that's something that I have a whole career in helping people learn how to withstand the somatic sensation of those sorts of things. So that's huge. That's really big. Well done. Really good job. Mm-hmm.
And what you just said, like, I mean, it's because of all, like you say, all the work done till now, little baby steps, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And what I got to experience is what it felt. It literally felt like I was talking from my gut. Like it felt like it was coming from my belly.
Yes. Wow.
That was what was like warm, and connecting to that. Then I just kept saying what I saw.
Yep.
It was so cool.
Yep. It's the metaphor I use all the time is that it's like either, I mean, pick your sport, like a surfer or like a really, really skilled ballet dancer. Absolutely tight, controlled core. Limbs are all flimsy. They can be
Yes.
flimsy because the core is locked in. Your
Oh,
center is locked in. And when you're locked in your center, you can flow. And in fact, that's the only way you can.
that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, thank you for adding extra layers of words to my experience, because that's what you do so well, Jamie.
I love it. It's my favorite thing. And I'm really proud of you. And the
Thank
thing I
you.
want to say too, to reflect to you is I was hearing you say like, the person's internet connection was weird. They might not have even like heard what I said. And maybe no one else did, but maybe someone else did. And so maybe it serves some
Totally.
purpose. The additional thing I want to point out is like none of that even matters nearly as much about the fact that you practiced the skill of aligned humaning, we'll say, which is like have thought, say thought. Have thought, tell truth. Like just like you are and it doesn't even need to be for a specific reason to accomplish. It's cool when it does. And in fact, that is, I think, the only way to really ultimately accomplish the things that we are passionate and purposeful about.
Yeah.
And life is more made up of just like consistent alignments and realignments in those really small ways of just constantly telling the truth. I'm going to take a second and pull something up really quick. So I read this in a Substack yesterday that apparently neuroscientist Sam Harris argues for telling the truth in every situation, however serious or trivial, however uncomfortable. Quote, to lie is to recoil from relationship.
All right. Settle down, Sam Harris. That's just...
So that's to always tell the truth. Always tell the truth. So that's the even more important thing is you practice that skill just at all. You with you. And as you grease those wheels, you learn how to just live from that place more often. And that will make you so well. It will make your body so well. And it will make your relationships really thrive, like all of them.
Oh my gosh. That's so beautiful that you're recoiling from relationship when you're not telling the truth. That's the thing that's like the weird mind flip you have to do, especially if you are like very deeply people-pleasy trained. Because you think you're telling the lie to preserve the relationship.
That's codependency, baby. Right there. Right there. Yep.
I am unlearning. I'm practicing unlearning.
Such a great job.
Good.
Yay.
Thank you. I will receive. Okay, Jamie. So I need to ask you, how have you been experiencing your anatomy the last couple weeks?
Well, once again, I barely have a voice, so that's very fun.
Part of it.
It's been once again pretty dynamic. I have been back. In fact, I have been back for almost exactly 2 weeks now in Bellingham from Nashville, and I leave again in a week. And I am so extraordinarily relieved that this is the last time I have to do this, because part of what has been occurring is something that has been recurring frequently with my anatomy, as probably people who listen to this audio-based media can tell, is that sinus throat stuff has been really consistent, which is pretty ironic, having just started a podcast. But I am beginning to piece together the nuanced puzzle of what's going on here. And it is quite nuanced because that's kind of my cosmology, is like nothing has totally nailed it. So I take little bits and pieces from everything. And so there's a German new medicine element of this where I'm aware of, like, the scent conflict, and when it's resolved, the symptoms come on, and that has been like bang on correct, true for both the sinus, inflammation that I had about a month ago, and then also this one. And so I feel really appreciative and grateful in the direction of my body instead of frustrated. For the most part, there are still there's 10% frustration when I'm just like, I really want to breathe. I'm so tired of this. And I hit those walls totally. But then, having this perspective of like, you are completing a neutral process that I actually participated in initiating, and you are completing it on my behalf. And so to be angry at you, body, for, doing holding up your end of the deal is just like not really a productive use of my time.
Yeah.
So that is so helpful. Additionally, I spoke to one of my friends who is just the best yoga teacher at my studio here in town, which is like my favorite studio. She's a wonderful person. She grew up here, and she was telling me how like this spring the allergies are so bad. And I was like, okay, I'll put that feather in my cap too, because goodness gracious, like let's call it that as well. And so that has allowed me to strategize a bit. So I've been taking local honey and bee pollen, and it has definitely helped the last couple of days. And then the final thing is that, well, flying a lot will do that to you, which is like, I didn't really even put that together until yesterday, I think. And then also this piece of like, the symptoms kept kind of like getting better and then coming back intensely. And I'm like, what is going on? And it's like temperature changes and cold exposure. And it's the springtime in the Pacific Northwest is like, when the sun is out, it's summer. It's like a nice warm day, but then the moment it starts to set, like it's cold again. So my body was going through these temperature fluctuations that, living the last 12 years in the South, you don't deal with this time of year. It stays some expression of relatively warm by now.
Yeah.
So that's new for my body. And then I was still taking my cold showers in the morning, and it got to a point where it was so obvious that like, took my cold shower, and then it was like the pressure in my head was so much more intense. And so I finally was just like, sinus inflammation and cold exposure, just typed into Google. And I was like, yes, it is not good for you. Don't do it. And I was like, okay, I'm discovering how to best support my body as she does the inevitable things that she's going to do. Yeah. So that has been kind of the main thing, just navigating for the last week at least. That really has been the main thing, like modulating my energy output. Last week, probably about like 5 days ago, I'd say, I did two client sessions in the morning on Zoom, and then was like, I have to be horizontal. Like, this is not working. And I just like laid in bed for until the evening. So just learning how to do that, and that's fine to do. That's really been mostly it. There's been plenty of life things and community things and family things and kid things and partner things all existing at the same time. But it's always interesting for me to make the decision to both modulate and show up in as much of the full expression of my energy and power as I can possibly get access to while dealing with symptoms. Because I'm sure everyone feels this way. I don't love it. I don't love it.
You're not like, yippee, it's happening again.
Yeah. So this is the part where I feel better and I sound worse. So I feel so much better. I can actually breathe through my nose now, but a lot of the coughing has led to this permanent vocal fry. So we're just going to roll with it today.
Gonna sing some jazz later.
Tyler tells me it sounds sexy. I have a hard time understanding how that could be possible because I am irritated by it. But, here's to hoping.
The beauty's in the ear of the beholder. That's it.
Yes, the ear.
I love that. I want to name a couple things I heard in what you just shared. The first being like really an illustration of one of the coolest aspects of thinking of your relationship, your body. It's like a relationship with a person.
Yeah.
Which is, and actually maybe we're not necessarily all that practiced at doing this even with other people. In fact, it's actually always tricky. Like,
sure.
We want to have a relationship with people. We want them to never change. And we want their behaviors to be predictable.
Yes.
Actually, and we actually want that? But we have a story, or we can be in the practice of thinking we need
believe
that.
We cannot withstand the transition, the change, the loss of attachment, that all that stuff. Yes. Yeah.
And it's tricky because like life is literally constantly changing. I think that it can be very common, and I've certainly been in this idea, especially when I like first started like really being intentional about like what I did with my body and wanting to have a certain practice, and I was exploring different practices. And it's just interesting, like the cold shower thing, where that could be the kind of thing that, like, say I was doing it, I've been doing it every morning, it could feel like I have to keep doing it. It's one of the ways it's like a religious practice now. I can't give it up because it means I'm not devoted to my body.
Girl, you better believe I went there. You better believe I went there. That's right.
Tell me.
That's right. And then yesterday when that intense pressure came on, I was like, I don't get away with that anymore.
Yeah. Your body's like, hello.
Beautiful.
You're
So
doing
elegant.
this for me?
Yes.
Well,
I'm telling you to stop for me. Can you listen to me?
Because aren't I the purpose? And you're like, oh no.
That's right. That is exactly right. Mm-hmm.
So we don't get to do like that ritual can evolve over time, that what the relationship needs basically can evolve over time. And there can be a rhythm for a while, but then the rhythm changes. And that's part of the overall rhythm is that there will be a constant change.
Yes.
And I just think that's so helpful, even just for like anyone who like feels like, what's the best morning routine or whatever, you know, like you can kind of get into such cycles. It's like, what if it's in constant flow? And that's really actually kind of cool.
Well, I mean, that feels like a really excellent segue into, you know, our final episode of this death season. Speaking of things being in constant flow, which essentially means whatever was is constantly dying and being reborn into what is right now. That's it. That's it. That's all we can expect or anticipate in the human experience. Well, I guess we can expect or anticipate whatever the hell we want to, but like the experience we're going to have is going to be determined by resistance versus surrender. So yeah, we wanted to wrap this season up. Originally, our idea was to kind of talk about like various different philosophies about death and such, but we've actually both had the realization in the past couple of days that among all the conversation and interviews and philosophizing we've been doing this season, we literally haven't even talked to each other about like, because I had the thought, I was like, I don't even know what Joan believes about death. So that seems like a great conversation to have today, which is our intention. But you also had the idea of let's start by just talking about like what weird shit / interesting things were we taught about death previously? Like what were our original philosophies, beliefs about death? Yeah.
And I think an important reason for that is like, I mean, I guess I wouldn't know for sure, but like say I was raised within a different original philosophy about death, like from my childhood, that probably would in some way inform my current philosophy in a different way. Like I do think that as my philosophy continues to evolve, a little bit is me like I had a certain coat on and it wasn't fitting quite right. And as I took that one off, then I've been like trying on different coats. And a little bit is like, oh, that one feels a bit too much like the original coat, or, you know. So I thought we'd talk about the very fascinating original coat that we were both given to wear in, I doubt we had the same actual denomination of Christianity. There were certain features of evangelical Christianity that we appear to have in common.
Yeah.
And maybe some differences, which would be interesting too, actually.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious just to add, like, what was your kind of specific brand that you were raised with?
Yeah. So like ideas about death, it was like a very stark divide about fearing death or being super excited about death. And it was all about what happened after death. Right. It was about the afterlife. And so if you were one of the sheep, right? That was the good one.
Not goat. You don't want to be a goat.
Don't be a goat.
Don't be a goat.
So if you were a Christian, just to say it in less like for
you're
people who aren't
us.
Christian.
One of us.
If you were properly saved and had God on your heart, then and did it in the right way or whatever, then you got to go to heaven. And so we should, and then there would be worship songs like weeping in convention centers as a teenager. Can't wait to go to heaven. I can only imagine. If you remember that song.
That's a big one.
That's a good one. Standing in your glory. And so so there's a part of you being like a very youthful person.
Yeah.
And being super psyched to die.
Yeah.
Because that means you finally get to feel good. You finally get to be just in pure bliss.
Yeah.
And not have to play this
that part's
game.
Not like totally wrong, I don't think. We'll get into it when we get into our current,
Sure.
cosmologies. But the fact that there's this like longing, reaching, desperation for the only time it's allowed to feel good.
That's the thing.
That's
is like,
the thing.
so you don't feel too good here and it's fine because
It's fine.
eventually
Yeah.
what a party you're going to have on these golden streets,
Which
right?
can then even sometimes turn into like the less good you feel here, the more good you'll feel there, which is can be
Yes.
used as an extremely manipulative tool to control people. And I'm not going to try and presume whether or not people know they're doing that or they're doing it on purpose. I don't know. I just know that that is something that can happen.
That can absolutely.
Mhm.
Yes. And so then it did for me, the way it sort of functionally felt in my body was, like a deep yearning and
Mhm.
excitement for death.
Yeah.
And sometimes, especially when you're having moments of suffering and you're in adolescence and your emotions are high anyway, being like,
Yeah.
can I just skip this part? Which
Yep.
feels like it in my case, it wasn't ever suicidal ideation, but it is fascinating how it feels
Mhm.
close to that actually.
It wasn't that for me ever either. But when some of my very religiously informed poetry was discovered in a notebook of mine in early high school and given to my mother from an act of concern for my well-being because it was interpreted as suicidal. That was both offensive and confusing because
Yes.
I had spent my whole childhood, and I'd spent my whole life up to that point being told exactly as you were, this is the thing we're all waiting for. And I wasn't having the best time as a teenager
Yeah.
for a lot of reasons that deserved to be addressed in the here and now, but weren't. And so kind of no one was talking about what I needed to have talked about. And so what was I really left with other than to like, exactly like you're saying, like tap into that longing, like water that seed of longing
Yes.
and write about how I can't wait for things to feel better. And I've been
Yeah.
told that that is maybe the only place where they'll ever actually feel totally better. So can we skip all this?
Yeah.
At no point was I ever intending to actually skip all this. It was an expression of I would like to feel better, So
Mhm.
yeah, but it's unfortunate that it was so the options of ways to feel better were pretty limited in what I can remember
Yeah.
about my experience too.
And actually, one last piece of like the heaven side of the conversation that's coming to my mind now was the way in which our current bodies, like there could be versions of the theology or whatever that we were talking about where it's like it was about like, don't worry, even if you didn't get a good body in this lifetime, including like disease or disability, which is problematic. But you're gonna get a new, like that was part of it. You're gonna get a new body in heaven, and it would often, and you will be beautiful. Like
the subtext there is this body's shit.
Yeah, so you're
this
like,
body
can't wait
is
to
failing.
exit
It's
this
supposed
one.
to. It's bad at its job. Can't wait to leave. Can't wait to get rid of this horrible
You're like,
malfunctioning meat suit. I know.
Mm.
So is it any wonder that when
Yes.
people leave that space and they start to learn about trauma and dissociation, this is what I have found for years. But when I used to work more intentionally with recently deconstructed and deconstructing evangelicals, it was so difficult. This is why my whole career was built originally upon like, hi, your body is good at their job and is your friend. Because that core programming that was sometimes overt, but very often just like quite covert if you're going to get a new body, what is subtly implied there is that like this one is, you can expect that this one is going to give you a hard time. That's kind of baked into it. So you can go get the new, good, best one later.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I did not put that together, Trey. Like obviously we've said that in different ways, but the whole the selling of the new body, I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. What was your specific denomination that you were raised in?
The main church I went to for the majority of my childhood and adolescence was Associated Gospel, which felt very similar to Baptist-esque And then also very in line with general evangelical stuff. So like definitely we did a book, a whole lecture series or sermon series on contagious Christian. And we're, always having events for new seeker friendly, so we were recruiting for God.
Yep.
But there was no tambourines. There was no tongues.
No tongues.
No, speaking in tongues is what I mean by that.
No fun had at all.
No fun, no dancing, but we did have a rock band.
Wow, progressive.
I played the keyboards in the youth one. So it was like in that kind of middle space, I would say.
That is really, 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 really similar to mine, actually.
Is it? Yes. What was yours called?
Well, it was Southern Baptist.
Okay.
And kind of at this cultural moment of like trying to update themselves a little bit. And it sounds like they were updating themselves in kind of all the ways that you just mentioned. I remember around the time of late childhood, early adolescence, the struggle with, what do we do about the fact that people don't want the traditional hymns anymore? They want that contemporary stuff. So they had a traditional service and a contemporary
We did too.
Totally. There you go.
Different times.
We could not be better matched in this conversation, Joan. This is really
hilarious.
Also, I love that we're finding this out now.
I never knew.
I had suspicion that there was just from you being my client, us working together, and then having this relationship with one another. There were very few, if ever any, moments where you would share something about kind of your cultural context of Christianity that was foreign to me.
Yeah.
So this makes sense. Well, then, okay, let's talk about the somatics of everything from hell specifically. So like the somatics of hell regarding the near miss of us going there. Whew, thank goodness. But the existence of it at all.
Yes.
And then that is pretty adjacent to the way in which, you're supposed to save other people from going there. And that creates a whole additionally very complicated somatic experience. I internalized the fear of hell really specifically. There's some of these doctrines, teachings people internalize in different ways. Again, I know from working with former evangelicals for a really long time that some people just set hell down and never think about it again. It took me a long time to set hell down because that's one that went really somatically deep very young. And it wasn't so much, I was never afraid of going to hell because by the time I came to understand that concept, I got on the right team. Cool. Going to the good place. I was actually quite scared of the good place. I had a lot of anxiety around I was going to live forever and I didn't have a choice in the matter. That really stressed me out.
Yeah.
And since there were only two options, I felt obviously better about the fact that I wasn't going to hell, but I didn't love that I was going to heaven. Some of it was well, it sounds kind of boring.
Yes.
Some of it was the idea of a God that created hell was kind of frightening. And I didn't know if I wanted to hang out with that guy forever and then be expected to constantly worship him. It just felt oppressive, boring. Just church wasn't fun. So I was like, this forever? Really? I don't love that.
Yes.
But it was more specifically, interestingly enough, about the fact that there would be no end. That is what stressed me out. And because I couldn't conceptualize of it. And I wasn't, and when I would lay awake at night and panic and freak out, my parents would come in. I think at first they thought I was afraid of death. But I was trying to, as a 7-year-old, figure out how to explain to them, no, I would like to be able to opt in to the total death thing, but you're telling me I can't order that item on the menu. That's what I'm freaking out about. And it felt to me in my body that why haven't you guys thought about this before? What the hell? I'm freaking, I felt like they didn't know what to say to me.
Yeah.
I now know that my parents are so wonderful and I don't really think they've thought about this a lot. So they weren't totally equipped. And then probably feeling the things that parents feel when they don't feel totally equipped to answer their kids' questions about death. It's kind of spooky.
Fair.
But then there was this additional piece. I love a lot of people that are not going there. You all seem very calm about this. Why?
I keep laughing because it's like so real.
I know.
Like,
I know.
yes.
I have found a lot of resonance with
God.
people in our kind of age group about this. Like just thinking of like specifically my aunts and uncles, like one aunt in particular that I really loved that was is my mom's older sister. And I didn't understand why my mom was not just in stitches daily about the fact that like she could die at any moment and she would be permanently living forever in the bad place. And they were just going to work and just hanging out with her
Guys.
and not pushing the issue 24/7. It was like, maybe this is why I think it definitely is part of why I decided at that young age that my life was going to be about constantly sharing the gospel.
Yeah.
And I had this kind of innate understanding in the direction of and even respect for like, you know, the people who were doing that thing, both everything from like a street preacher with a bullhorn to our pastor and like the missionaries that would come to visit our church. Like the sense of urgency is the only thing that made sense to me. And so the fact that my parents didn't seem to have that urgency gave me more of it. I felt more stressed about that. So all of this is just, and then to feel that my parents, not just my parents, but my parents and even like some of the pastors and leaders and teachers that I had around me, both in church and school, I didn't really feel like the feeling I had was that they weren't taking this as seriously as I was. And I couldn't understand why, because the stakes seemed really high. And so all that was just like, just held, swirling, stuck in my body all the time. So of course I had like constant stomach pain, like that completely tracks.
I mean, you were just like, I'm terrified for the souls of my beloved family that's going to show up in your body.
Yeah. And then I'm like 10, 11 years old writing poetry about a friend of mine going to hell and screaming at me from hell that it's all my fault because I didn't tell her about Jesus.
Oh, baby Jamie.
I know. I know.
Much.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel that so strongly. Thank you for sharing all of that. I reflect back then on, I feel like same but slightly different flavor.
Yeah.
Definitely the sense of like, guys, are you doing the math all the way through? And like, why are, you know what I mean? Both my parents, to their credit, have always taken religion very seriously and really were recruiting a lot of people. I had that sort of role model set. And so then I was like following along and, you know, over the course of high school, the majority of my friend group became Christians by the end because I just kept praying them to things. Anyway, so like that urgency and it was, for me, it was tied up in like good girl performance, not like good for you, but like, well, I'm performing for God and I want to do a good job for God stuff.
Right. Yeah. I had some of that too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thinking of like the hell piece of it, there's two ways in which I still feel it showing up. And I think it's not only because of the specific doctrine I learned, but like the color and shape and imagery is like what formed when I was a kiddo, for sure.
Yeah.
So the two pieces is like what my body and my brain imagine it feels like to be in hell. Like I have a very distinct feeling of that. And for me, that was like, you know, we're trying to make the doctrine more palatable. Most people have heard of like the burning and the gnashing. And so the more palatable version that I heard multiple like pastors is like, it doesn't have to be all that. That's not how we interpret the Bible. All it is the complete absence of love.
As if that's better?
And I'm there like, and I would be like, no, I'm like, oh, that's the better one, huh?
Oh,
okay.
Wow.
And
they won't have that bad of a time. They will just be stuck in a state of absence of love for eternity.
Forever.
It's the forever part, Joan. It's the forever
part.
So, I mean, I kind of I respect the Catholics to some degree for like, oh, there's a middle. There's a temporary.
Give me a middle.
Give me a middle.
Please give me a process, right?
Give me something with an end. Honestly, to speak
truly.
to like what our bodies were longing for. I mean,
yeah.
And like what we've talked about, it just like that being we'll again get into it after the break, but like, I think both of us now very much have a philosophical approach towards death that like acknowledges and even celebrates endings.
Yeah. Really important.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so like that version, the way that like I picture that in my head and the way that still shows up in my body is like I picture like a cold,
Yeah.
dark cavern
Yep.
with like just like one little beam of light so you can like see yourself. And I
Oof.
picture myself like small child, and then you're just there and that's your eternity. And I would picture it so vividly. And I still feel like when I'm super in a shame, anxiety, fear spiral about my husband being mad at me or about someone thinking badly of me, or basically if I feel like I'm about to be out of the inn, and it's like it's about social stuff. I don't actually consciously believe I'm now going to hell because I do not believe that exists anymore.
Right.
But I believe the version of hell on earth, it comes from, my recovering codependency state. If you are mad at me, I feel the absence of love. Because there's several layers of doctrine cooked into that, obviously. But just like that, like if I'm feeling rejection or fear of rejection, fear of the kind of attachment I think I need to have where you're always happy with me. It's typically that.
Yeah.
Which clearly was just like, I was trained into that in the wanting God to be happy with me, da-da-da.
Yeah.
I go back to that place and it's the terror of that. And I already feel that. And that, it'll be like, why am I so anxious about this? And then like when I kind of peel back the layers, it's always the little girl.
That's right.
In the cold, loveless cavern.
It is the programming that because again, for the first 7 years of your life and even for a little bit beyond that, at first it's all that's going on. And then it's the majority of what's going on. And then it starts to become a little bit less and less and less of, the main thing that's going on is that you are absorbing, emitting unconsciously through your somatics, through your soma, through your body. And to either be directly taught about these doctrines or to just be living in the presence of other people who are deeply and with conviction believing and practicing them for themselves, that builds your somatic blueprint on some level. So it makes so much sense and is also like a really excellent practice, maybe is a good word to just say, of like your ability to go, whoa, wait, where's this fear of annihilation coming from in this like singular interaction? Like if my husband's mad at me, like what I know is that we'll figure it out or we'll talk about it, or even more deeply, what I know is I can withstand.
I'll be okay, actually.
I'll be okay. But the fact that my initial reaction was the felt state of that cold, dark, alone place, what is that information about? What does she need to tell me about what she's accessing that she learned first before my consciousness, the light switch of it flipped on and I started knowing that I was learning things and started being able to identify with what I was learning and then articulate what I'm learning. What did she absorb first that she might want to tell me about here? Sometimes you are very calm in the midst of what is familiar, and what is actually needed is the intentional, rooted in trust disturbance of what is familiar. That's when adult you says, honey, I love you. Thank you. Can you come with me here? Because I don't want you to stay here. And more than that, I don't want you to believe that you have to. Yeah. Because there is somewhere else for us to go. And it's actually my job to take you there.
That's so beautiful. I love that so much. And I resonate with that so deeply. Like a lot of the work that's helped me, show up to Zoom meetings and tell the truth or whatever is genuinely like as I've really done some deeper work of like just having conversations with that little girl in the cavern and like actually like I did this whole thing where I like drew like a ladder so she could get out and then I invited her into a room and
my God,
just
I love
that
it.
And like she can have a blanket, she can be warm. Like I will be the love for her. So it's like it even for that terrifying part of myself, like you aren't loveless because I do love you.
That's right.
So it's a lie that exists.
Yes.
And I'm showing that to you by loving you.
That's right. Love always tells the truth.
So good.
Always tells the truth. Yes, that's right.
It's so good.
So good.
So
this feels like a great place to take a little break. Yeah. I mean, I don't think we can say anything better than what we just said about all that. So let's leave that there. And then we'll come back and talk about what's present for us these days, regarding our beliefs about death.
Sounds good.
If you'd like to connect with us, we invite you to join us on Substack.
exanatomy.substack.com is the home for the Experiential Anatomy podcast. It's the place to stay up to date and never miss an episode, even if you're taking a break from social media.
You can subscribe for free, and you can contribute to the sustainable creation of these conversations by upgrading to a paid subscription. Paid subscribers get access to special content like audience Q&As, bonus episodes, and other supportive materials that we've created along the way.
We love it there, and we hope you will too. Hello, Jamie.
Hi.
Here we are.
Hey, Joan.
again.
Hello. We're back from our break.
Yes.
Yes.
And now we're into a portion of this conversation. I am just deeply curious. I was curious. I wrote down 3 things I want to make sure I say that were like, I think these are my things so far about what I think about death. And I would love to know, your current ideations. But I will just say, so like whatever ideations I have about afterlife, death, like it's an ongoing conversation. This is only like in this moment in time what I'm feeling out. And that feels like the best, to not feel like I have to land somewhere. So I was assuming you had a similar philosophy.
Totally. Yeah. It's definitely like it feels, I mean, the joke I made at the beginning of recording, that isn't really that much of a joke. Like, I love not knowing anything. Like, I truly do mean that I love not embodying a posture of certainty. And death is a tough one to really, truly take it all the way.
Yeah.
Like the full extent of surrender without dipping back into or like visiting the illusion that you possibly could have certainty surrounding death. So I do love not knowing anything. And I am human. And there are many, many moments where I wish that I could know many things. Kind of larger picture, philosophically, I am definitely a person who subscribes to the idea that we are, and I will borrow law of attraction language because, of course, when we leave our bodies, we simply reemerge back into non-physical. What that means is like, I'm going back to wherever I came from. And I assume I was having a fine time there. I assume I wasn't having a difficult time, and to the degree even where I assume I was not suffering. So I am very comfortable, actually, with making the assumption in the big picture that however it is that I leave my body, once, or however it is anyone else leaves their body, once that process is complete, the person that I loved, that physical extension, seemingly singular, separate physical extension of source energy, has reemerged, or that I will reemerge back into source energy. And so I will not be, they will not be suffering in any way. I don't believe that's the same thing as like going to heaven.
Yeah.
Even though the rhetoric was, when you go to heaven, there is no suffering there. Maybe this is obvious, but it's worth stating. I believe that belongs to everyone. I don't believe there's some people that applies to and other people that doesn't apply to, which is great news, because once we are done playing this game, there's only good things across the finish line. And really maybe even there's nothing across the finish line. But that's even better news than if there was something and it didn't feel good, or,
Yeah.
So the specifics of it, I can't quite grasp, and I don't really need to grasp.
Yes.
And that's great for me to feel myself settle into philosophically, whether it's in a fun conversation like this, or like when I lay my head on the pillow at night and I just kind of need to remind myself that like, there's nothing to be afraid of, that's cool. And the deeper I go in relationship with other people, I'm not going to say the less that does for me, because that's not the right way to put it. But the larger the expanse, I have come to notice, grows between that as an idea, making me feel totally fine, and allowing, I don't say versus, but like the expanse between, because when my life was smaller, I understand why I was doing it. I understand why I was unconsciously self-sabotaging vulnerability in relationships and not really living in a way that was heart open enough and honest enough at the same time to deeply attach to other people. Talking about death in this way is not sticky, not prickly, not tender in any way.
Yeah.
The more heart open I have become, the more attached I have allowed myself to be to the here and now, the more I have some very apparently, this was a part of my dynamic, last couple of weeks, was like really interesting thoughts about Tyler dying. And yeah, sure, some thoughts, but then also some some somatic stuff that wasn't really going top down. It was like arising from within. And in those moments, telling myself, or sometimes when Tyler's like, but death isn't real, I'm like, that's not helpful right now.
Don't say that.
I agree. And let me feel some stuff about the fact that I care, that, I would be altered profoundly. And I want to exist in a state of perpetual reverence regarding that reality. I want to exist in a state of, I guess maybe as an outgrowth of that reverence, constant presence, because this is going away. This is going away. I had a moment with him in the kitchen a couple nights ago. Some tender stuff had come up and I was moving through it. And whenever that happens to me, I'm always in observation of the process I'm enacting, because I'm not attaching to it or identifying with it. So like, give me a minute and I'll be able to go, whoa, that is so interesting. Because like love is new for me. So, and especially to this degree of like, I exist in a family now. Like it gets really interesting when it's like, my relationship to these kids is like kind of through this person, and like what happens, I don't want to get into it right now. Don't make me talk about it. But but in the context of like me and him, I was in the kitchen and I was like, it is so fascinating to me the ways in which the tendency comes up within me to like build resentment towards you or nitpick in my own mind or outwardly about ways in which you are something other than what I think you should. All as a vulnerability avoidance tactic. Because if I keep loving you, if I stay here, if we keep doing this, when not if you die, holy shit, am I going to feel that? And I was like, wow, that's a lot of what's going on in relationships unconsciously. People deeply, deeply love each other, and entertaining not the possibility, but the reality of the inevitability of death is so subtle, but incredibly present. And also like modeled for our parents were doing that in front of us, and their parents and their parents. This is like ancient stuff. And we are alive at a moment where we get to be really curious about our internal worlds, and we're like resourced enough to like practice those philosophical, spiritual endeavors. That's pretty cool. And we also like have so much data, and we can all talk to each other across like space and time and like learn things about. It's like such an interesting moment to be an observer of the unconscious habitual processes that unfold in the human experience. And that is what I find to be most interesting about partnership, about parenting, about just living in a body at all. And so I was just sharing with him, like, that's so much of like where people go when like love dismantles itself or falls apart. It's just like, what are the ways in which I have the tendency to hide from you as a self-preservation tactic to not go any deeper here? Because at the end of the day, I'm so afraid of how it will affect me when you leave. Not if, when.
Yeah.
So I know what I think is the most comforting and logical in my mind, like thought,
Yeah.
belief about death. And when that comes down to the ground level, those beliefs and thoughts do not protect me, nor do I want them to, from the feeling of like the fact that this is all going away. Every single second of it is going away. And isn't that such an incredible case for being here?
Yeah.
I can't think of a better one. And when we are unaware of the fact that it's all going away, we are hardly here.
We miss it.
We miss it.
Yeah.
We miss it.
Oh my God, Jamie. Yeah. Like the way you just so beautifully described that, I'm just like right now connecting with, if someone then was to have ideas about what happens to those people when they go, that included like, we'll see them again in heaven, or I totally get it.
Of course. Totally.
Because it's a soothing, and I don't want to say a story as if I know it's only a story. I have no idea.
I have no clue.
But I understand why that's a belief that like it's the better feeling thought, if you will. Like, you know.
And I'm not interested in like trying to take that from anybody. I don't need anybody to set that down in front of me. It's, you know, everyone's either not grappling with this reality, or when they are stepping into the arena of grappling with it, pick your story.
Pick your story.
I am not going to fault you for whatever story you pick.
It's that's it. There's, especially when it's not attached to like if they believe the right thing or whatever.
Totally.
For me personally, it's a beautiful story. Yeah, actually. Yeah, there's like ghosts is a cool, beautiful story.
Yeah,
that you know, etc. Like there's so many versions, right? Yeah. Reincarnation can be a beautiful idea.
Yeah,
I'll say idea.
I vibe with
you know
that.
what I mean?
I vibe with reincarnation. I'm like, it feels like, I mean, energy. What is it? Thermodynamics? Like energy cannot be created or destroyed. So if like consciousness, what is consciousness is a deep question.
Somewhere.
So I think I do. It is the reemerge. And then I think I like the Tibetan Buddhist, like it's the bardo, like you hang out back in non-physical source consciousness, Abraham, the whole collection of whatever, until you decide maybe, I don't know, or just come back, or there's something about that. Again, it's this kind of wave, this like death, gestation, life, death, gestation, life, death, bardo, life, death, bardo. There's something about that feels good to me. So I'm cool with that. And I'm cool if other people aren't cool with that.
Like find your best feeling thought. If you know what I mean? Like that's, totally.
What about you?
Oh my gosh.
I still really want to know what Joan believes about death.
This is what, these are the three things I wrote down. I'll literally just like read what I wrote, then can expand. So the first is like heaven on earth. Death becomes new life. Our legacy and impact alters the world. And I put in quotes, lives on.
Yes. Oh, unpack all of those, please.
So those are the things that when I've heard them and I've heard people talk about ideas of them, my body says the most yes. They're like, these feel like pieces that are useful to me, resonant with me, feel relaxing truth to me. Yeah. So I remember actually, like we just talked about the painful, like I'm supposed to be pumped for being in worship, being in church forever version of heaven and all the things that meant. And so when it was in like evangelical spaces and podcasts and stuff, when I heard like, what if it is, like they would say sort of the kingdom of heaven is here or whatever, but like the notion of like heaven's accessible to us now. And the way I hear you say it is like, I'm here to feel good. Yeah. Because like the ecstasy and the being totally surrounded by and embodying love, which is the most beautiful ways I heard heaven described. Like, I am interested in the project of experiencing that here on earth as much as I can. And it can be, picking up the ukulele and singing a Maggie Rogers song. Yes. It can be having a beautiful conversation. It can be that surprising moment of connection with your kid or your patient, or it can be like noticing how what you put out in the world is co-creating. It can be like big, it can be small, but actually the part that's actually my heaven is simply when I'm feeling good.
Yes. Yes. So beautifully said. Because then even that's like a spectrum and subjective. And that's the fun of it, right?
It doesn't look the same.
It doesn't. And it's not supposed to. And so like,
Yeah.
can we even like, part of allowing ourselves to feel good is like setting down how much we care about what it looks like for other people. It's like a huge part of it.
That's a huge one.
Yeah. It's the like, you stop doing that over there when actually we could just stop looking at it. That's what it is.
Not my business.
Yeah. Not my business. That's the invitation. But yeah, the other thing too, my life has gotten so much smaller in the last like 7 years. Like I was talking with another friend. My friends here in Bellingham are like slowly coming to the awareness, understanding as I like slowly share stories or whatever about like just the extent to which I was so heavily online for 7 years. And then because like, you know, what you practice, you get good at. Like I that was such a huge, not just part of my career, but like such an integral part of my personality, which is wild to think about now. Because it is so different from how they experience me. Like they experience me as like, I haven't looked at my phone for 36 hours. Like that's Jamie to them. They know not of Jamie Lee Finch, which is wonderful. And, you know, I spend the majority of my time now with like an audience of 3, you know, and it's like none of this is being shown online. Like it's just, and it's so much better. I cannot even tell you how much better it is. So when you're talking about like, it's the big moments, it's the small moments. I was mowing my lawn and I was like, the small shit is where it's at. That's it, man. Like that is, and that's my path. Like I don't need anyone else to get on that because it is some people's ministry to be like out. And maybe, and I do have a sense that I'll go in waves. There will be times where I'll be more visible, less visible. But I really come to love the small, satisfying, really simple moments. They're everything. Like that is the point of being alive. They're so good.
So good. Yes. And so it's like I can still be reaching for heaven, if you will, as a purpose of living, but the version of it is practicing, accessing it now and here, and it's the experience of it. And then I really like, I guess if I'm going to put a label on it, I'm just agnostic religiously. So it's like, I don't know what happens after. I don't understand how you could begin to debate it.
Yeah.
No one's coming back. Totally. And then the people who are coming back, we're all going to disagree if they did or not.
So one of the things my yoga teacher says about like yoga philosophy and like all the disagreements, she's like, there's no one to call. It's 5,000 years old. Let it go.
Perfect. There is no one to call. You're like, guys. Yeah. I mean, if you're all having fun.
Yeah. But don't get all tied up in knots about it. Like, just like chill. Yeah.
Like, yeah. So that's the heaven on earth. Death becomes new life. So that's looking like, you know, what do other animate creatures, like what does the rest of nature know about death?
Yeah.
And, you know, and depending, like different elephants have a grief ritual, like it's not like, you know, connection and relationship is acknowledged in different ways depending on the creature.
Yeah.
But like certainly a fact is like death becomes new life. Like that, I mean, I put food in my body because I know that death becomes new life. And so I want to always remember that I am part of that. And so the only thing I definitely know is, yes, I'm going to die, and then my body will either naturally decompose or be roasted, as my son said.
Yes.
I haven't decided. I even said on there, I'm like, oh, I guess I'm either going to be cremated, or there's like natural
burial,
where you just put your body there and let it go. I'm like, none of those sounds fabulous to me so far. Yeah. So then, though, that will be turned into different kinds of energy depending on which of those I even choose. Like my living matter will turn into matter in someone else's life.
Yep.
And I like that. I like having that idea of even whatever I think of as consciousness, which I am actually just as okay with being literally just like, neurons are zipping around my brain, and that like it's just electricity in what someone like another podcaster says it's like jello with electricity running through it.
Awesome.
Like maybe that's literally all my consciousness is,
with the ability to tell stories, and that's it. That's as deep as it goes. Yeah,
and totally. That's it. Yeah. And so then therefore literally then the cells just become different things. Yeah. Or if there's another essence, it's fun, and I feel a sense of connection of like it doesn't help me to think of it as a God, but like like when you say source or just love or whatever, I could think of that as maybe leaving the body and finding a new home. Like I think those sorts of ideas are really beautiful.
Yeah.
And so having those very lightly held as beautiful ideas, that's as far as sort of afterlife stuff goes that way. And then the other way the afterlife stuff goes is like, our legacy, our impact, like my body and being and what I do in the world alters the world.
So good.
And that is eternal life, if you will.
Oh, really well said. Yes.
And so that is, I think, so beautiful. And also like it convicts, to use like just language, but it sharpens me of like, I wish to be thoughtful as much as I can without totally losing my mind.
I just want to be on purpose.
I want to be on purpose. And it's because I see how it is, in my opinion, pretty factual that like my life alters life on earth and vice versa in the minute and maybe in ways I'll never know. And that will include after I'm dead. And I love participating in that actively, including like projects like this, like the idea, like, I don't know if podcasts, what will happen. I don't know what's going to happen to the internet. I don't know how much longer it has, if it's forever, if it's like a couple more years.
That'll be a fun thing to live our way into finding out.
Who knows? But imagine someone listens to this and we are dead already. Because we have like, and ideally like, because it's like 100 years from now.
I get a little taste of that with my book because I'm like, that version of me is dead.
Yes.
So it's wild that something exists that people can access in real time and operate under the assumption that the person that wrote this, like unconsciously kind of like wrote it yesterday. So they're right here with me. And it's like, for me, that's like 8 years ago, a whole nother lifetime. So thinking about that with like anything you ever make or create or put out, like because everything is constantly changing, but these things are then fixed is fascinating.
And that feels like part of my heaven on earth is creating that and offering ways to access that for others. So maybe that's my ministry, if you will. And my like, hey, this is heaven's available.
I believe that about you. That makes so much sense to me about you as like an educator and a creator and an artist. And you're just like really invested in the process of like leaving something of value here behind you. I love that so much. I think those are the people that in this phase of my life, in this season of my life, that I feel the greatest resonance with. People who have like clarity about what their values are and a deep desire to leave something of value that is in alignment with those values so that other people can have it too.
Same. Also same.
Well, that makes sense as to why we're doing this and why we love it so much and why it's going so well.
It's going so well.
It's going so well, in fact, that we're gonna have another season, aren't we, Joan?
Yes, we are. And it's fun because I subscribe to not enjoying knowing anymore. So, and in that, like, we have some initial ideas, and it feels particularly perfect that this is the season where we're like, it's maybe going to be this or that. Like, it's literally still becoming. Because that's the idea, like, is it going to have a specific word? Because like this season, death season, it's sort of obvious. This one, like some words, gestation is definitely one. Emergence, becoming, that's another one that just popped out of my mouth. I'm like, oh yeah. Bardo is the one that you'd said. Oh, and look, what you had said before we started recording is what comes after death before birth. Specifically, every description word that gets us closer to that set of ideas.
What is emerging in the realm of imagination just before the actual, whether it's action or production or what's that? What's the potency of what is emerging? We keep saying emerging. It might just end up being that one, but we'll see.
Emerging is a good one.
We'll see if it emerges.
Yes. So excited. So what has you excited about the possibilities of a season about emergence?
Oh my gosh.
Jamie?
Okay, so when you voice memoed me about this, the only thing we had already kind of entertained was that next season we would have more conversations with people who've been putting these principles into practice in healthcare and therefore have seen transformation in their personal life and in their professional career and practice that is in alignment with their values and with their bodies. And how else can we talk about that process not just in conversations with others, but in like the things that are appealing to us, like what's emerging and gestating for us in the realm of possibility for healthcare, for collective structures. So bring, the big picture and the small picture stuff. So I don't know, I feel all of it feels exciting to me. I feel really excited, maybe to actually answer your question. I feel really excited about the possibility of being interviewed by you about German New Medicine because I am so passionate about like what it has done for me. And I am surface level information, but that's like been enough for me to like kind of take what I've needed from it. So I'm really excited, slightly nervous about the endeavor of brushing up a little bit more intentionally so that I can have a knowledgeable conversation. I don't think I need to know everything, but I would like to communicate true things. So I like that as kind of a little invitation for me to dive a little more deeply into it. Yeah. What about you? What are you excited about?
I am also excited to like talk to people, including like I'm thinking of one specific human who we both love and have worked with that I'm super excited for her to be on.
Oh, she's in. We know she's in.
Yeah, I'm aware she's in.
And it's gonna be real good.
So speaking of like just like magical people, like yes. So that's so exciting. Yeah, like I think it's gonna be like mine one where like you interview me. I think it is gonna be emergent strategy, but
I would love
also
to
if
learn
it's
about that
not,
from you. Yeah.
I'll tell you. But that one, I mean, that has been such a foundational body of work that has shifted and been it's like it's not my new Bible because I don't think of it in that same way, but honestly, like especially Emergent Strategy, the book itself, like I can go back to it and I can it fills actually more effectively than opening the Bible used to, like where you'd be like, I just need a new way of thinking of this that's going to draw me back to my purpose, and like I'll read something and be like, okay, so and again I feel the same where you're like, how can I do it justice? But we'll just try and like basically offer, because it's not about like these are the new religions we're recruiting you to. We're not saying that at all. It's like the opposite. But like, what did interacting with this new set of ideas, what did that allow to emerge in us, right? And so I have so much I could say about that. So I would love to talk to you about it, Davey. I would love to talk to anyone.
So little. I am compelled by the terminology, but I know so little. So yeah, this is going to be so good. Yeah,
I'm excited.
Well, we've come to the death of our death season. Yes. I'm curious, before we kind of do our final body dedication and wrap this up. Obviously, we'll be sending each other some voice memos. Yeah. So some of this can even be expounded upon or continued. But I'm curious to hear from you, like sort of if there's anything that comes up regarding like a reflection from this season, something that you feel like you learned, whether that is from someone else or learned from your body, either inside of these conversations or your life outside of these conversations as we've been having them. I'm just curious what you might have noticed.
Yeah. I mean, I can think of very specific examples of like, something that came out of our conversation with Caroline. I then basically parroted at the family member of a patient who was dying about accepting pain. And I was like, what if you thought of it like being a doula? And so like directly enhancing and enriching the experience I have as like a practitioner. So that is amazing. And really this whole season is like kind of like just reignited my love for palliative care and really like calmed and relaxed me at a deeper level about considering death. That's not to say I will never have terror moments, but like I feel intimate with the notions of death and the fact that I will die and other people will die in just a more concrete, deeper way, like with my own body. And I think it was just spending all this time being like, surrender, yes, death, yes, death, yes, death. Yes. And everything that opens up is incredible. Yes. So that's only that.
Casual. Just a complete and total life
possibilities. Change. Yeah, that's all. How about you?
Successful project, successful season. I would say something really similar to that. I would say that my sort of being for lack of a better word, forced to think about death so much for the last like 3 months, has served the incredible purpose that I'm so grateful for, of exactly what I said before, of like tuning me more into here. And I maybe will just share this anecdote and let that speak for me. It was sometime in the last couple of days again that I was driving to, it might have even just been yesterday. I was driving to the grocery store before going to pick the boys up from school. And the phrase that is the title of the movie that Caroline shared with us, the last ecstatic days, just kind of floated through my mind. And something about that moment, like the sky was so bright and blue and the trees were like super vibrant green, and springtime up here is just so gorgeous. And I was like, quote unquote, stuck in traffic, but not really. I was like having a great time. Windows are down. Everything feels amazing. And I was just like looking at the contrast of these green trees and this blue sky. And I just had this awareness of, if I knew I was going to die, like I didn't watch that yet. I don't know if I will, but from what I understand the premise to be, it's that this person is choosing his moment of death. So that's got to be sometime. So let's say it's on a Wednesday and it's Tuesday.
Yeah.
How are you looking at the world?
Yeah.
That suddenly, I like clicked into that and I stayed there for probably like 6 seconds because I started to get really emotional. I was like, it's all so beautiful. It is all, and I, for like those like 6, maybe more, maybe a few more, 6 to 8 seconds, it was like I wanted to, like, it reminded me of the story I told about when I was on psilocybin in London, where I was like, if I were to, I'm not gonna, but if I were to walk out on the street and encounter a person, of which there are many out there, I would be non-functional because holy shit.
Yeah. Astonishing.
It's those eyes. Like I feel like I have greater, more consistent ease of access to those eyes and ears and nose and taste and whatever, like just the ability to take in sensory information in this way where it's like, what if I was dying tomorrow and I knew it? Because kinda I am. Like today is I'll never have this back. This is dying right now. So pay attention.
Pay attention. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for taking the journey with me this season, Jamie.
Thank you.
It's been really
so
special.
Good. It's been so good.
Oh my gosh. It's been so good. I can't wait to meet you in person in August.
Yeah, that's going to happen by the time we are recording season 3. Season 3 will be recorded in the context of our bodies having been in the same physical space with one another. That's wild.
I'm really looking forward to that.
And hopefully I will be working on you, which would be really amazing. Yes.
That's going to be
great.
so
as
good.
As long as you're game, I'm game.
I am so game.
Perfect.
I
We're doing
love body work like massage. Oh, it's so good.
Yes.
I just had to name that.
Great.
And so as we close out this last full episode of the season, what part of your anatomy would you love to dedicate this episode to?
I'm going to be the bigger person and appreciate my nose, my sinuses. I was thinking about it all day and I was like, it still feels true. By the time I'm asked this question, I'm just going to do it. It has been a struggle for me. Our relationship with one another has been quite complex over the last couple of months. I have felt at moments like my body, my sinuses in particular, like conspiring against me. Don't they know I have things to do? And I go, no, they don't actually.
They don't.
And I, in the process, sometimes consensual, sometimes non-consensual, of learning how to kind of adapt to what is and to the pace and tenor and tone that is required of me because I cannot breathe through my nose. Things are so limited. Like you're really limited on some things. Like it just, and you have to bring so much intention and your dreams get weird because you're mouth breathing and then you don't sleep. It's just like, you don't really realize how much is affected until you lose the ability to completely successfully inhale. And ultimately, that has been extraordinarily illuminating. Like that journey I was mentioning at the top of the episode that I've gone on and like uncovering why, like everything from the conflict shocked resolution to the like, I keep getting on planes and my body is asking me to stop. Like it's just all of it is information. It is all manifesting right in this area. That is, it grabs my attention like nothing else. And I would also like to invite my body into really hearing what I'm saying here to let her know that she doesn't have to keep getting my attention this way. I am listening to you. I promise. You do not have to keep manifesting constant sinus inflammation. And so, yeah, for that, I'm grateful for the way that she communicates, the way that she knows exactly how to get my attention. And I'm grateful to my nose and my sinuses for doing just such an excellent job being themselves. That's what I'll say. They're being themselves perfectly.
Good job, Jamie's nose and sinuses.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I do love them. I really do. Mm-hmm.
Yes. It feels like a perfect end to the season, in part because there have been multiple times over the course of the season where the nose.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, she's been a main character.
She is a plot line, honey.
Yeah.
And also kind of like what you literally just said, is like that you don't know what you got till it's gone of it all. Like if you temporarily lose full function or ability or connection or your usual way of interacting with a piece of your anatomy, it really helps you to appreciate that piece of your anatomy's involvement in your day-to-day living.
Oh man, like the first day that I can, which really I think was like today. It was like the first day that I could really, I went on a run and I was like, mouth was closed the whole time. Like this it's been a week and it feels awesome. So yeah, you do really come into a greater appreciation of what you temporarily lost. I agree with that.
So good. Okay, I think we have to call it.
I think that's it.
It's time.
It's time.
Time of death.
Yeah. Call it Joan. Call it Doc. There you go.
Yes.
Well, we'll see each other in the voice memos. We'll hear each other on the voice memos. We will see each other literally in August. There will be mid-season content of some kind that if y'all join us over on Substack, you will be privy to. I think what would probably feel good, if I can just say this now, I would love to do more Q&As, more like direct interaction in between the season. I think that would be super fun. More bonus episodes where we're answering questions, stuff like that. So yeah, just join us. Y'all join us over on Substack in between seasons. So then you can ask us questions. You can be a part of that community and we would love to see you there.
Yes. See you there and see you next season.
Bye.
Bye. This is Experiential Anatomy. Thanks for listening. I'm Joan Chan.
And I'm Jamie Lee Finch. Experiential Anatomy is co-hosted and created by us.
Amber Wyndham is the editor. Julia Wyndham is the supervising producer.
Senior producer is Elizabeth Wyndham. Aaron Beatty leads our community management.
Our theme music is Park Pier 3 by G's Guy.
If you have any thoughts, questions, or stories to share about this week's episode, email us at exanatomy@gmail.com.
Please follow, rate, and review on your favorite podcast platform. And remember to join us over at exanatomy.substack.com.
Experiential Anatomy is produced by Windhaven Productions.
It is finished.
Flawless.
Flawless.
Our best work yet.